Now, NHS trusts are being told to prioritise ethnic minority applicants for interview shortlists, and they justify hiring white British candidates. Now, the official guidance says at least one BAME candidate must be shortlisted, even if white candidates are better qualified. And one NHS trust admitted using positive discrimination to decide who even gets an interview. Now, managers are also told to use race as a tiebreaker, and guess who wins in that case, and to explain themselves if the hire isn't from a minority background. Now, some won't even move forward unless it's a non-white candidate is in the mix altogether. Now, all this while NHS backlogs are hitting record highs. What a carry-on. Dr. Mukherjee, let's start with you. When you look at the naked truth here, there must be BAME candidates on shortlists. You have to justify hiring white British candidates, and a tiebreaker, a toss of the coin. If there's an ethnic minority and a white person, the job will be given to the ethnic minority. Do you think that's racist?
That is racist. And it goes against the fundamentals of the NHS, which is about patient care and quality of care. And as a patient myself, I mean, I know I'm a doctor myself, but by all means, I pay taxes, and you all do as well. We want to get the best quality people serving us. We don't want to be paying money towards some sort of diversity hire just to tick a box. That doesn't serve the purpose. I don't think I would want to be, and I'm a person of colour myself, I don't think I would want to be a diversity hire. I think it's a bit of an insult, really, to think that of all the things I had to offer, the only thing that I have no control over, my skin colour, is what got me the job.
GB News.
Good morning. Tuesday the 20th of May, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Good morning. So is it a Brexit reset or reversal?
This is the first UK-EU summit. It marks a new era in our relationship. And this deal is a win-win.
That he's turning this country once again into the orange ball-chewing, leather trust gimp.
Boris Johnson, in his own way, slamming the Prime Minister's deal with the EU as a total sellout, with European boats having fishing access to British waters until 2038.
It's the morning after that Brexit reset deal announced. Keir Starmer's with his cabinet, a statement to the House of Commons, but was it worth reopening all those Brexit wounds from 8 years ago?
It's time. You got to stop this thing. And I believe he wants to stop.
American President Donald Trump has said that peace talks between Russia and Ukraine will begin immediately after his marathon 2-hour phone call with Vladimir Putin.
Blair's fat jab rollout. So Tony Blair says half of British adults should be able to get their hands on fat jabs through the post. So if you're slightly overweight, the former PM wants you to shed a few pounds. He says it'll make us all much healthier.
Tommy Robinson's attempt to reduce his sentence for contempt of court after admitting multiple breaches of an injunction made in 2021 will be heard at the High Court this morning. We will bring you the latest.
The Princess of Wales is calling for better paternity pay in Britain, so we're debating, should it match the rate of paternity pay? Alex Lloyd-Hunter from the Dad Shift campaign certainly thinks so.
About a third of fathers can't take any paternity leave at all. They can't afford it, they go back to work the next day. If you're self-employed, you get absolutely nothing. You don't work, you don't get paid.
Quite right too. Golden balls and golden jewels. The King and Queen attend the Chelsea Flower Show as David Beckham gets another assist in helping the royal family launch a charity campaign. Is someone angling for a knighthood, Andrew Pearce?
I think they certainly are. How does our rise to David Beckham sound?
Well, it's certainly something that he would want, I'm sure. I don't know whether the British public would think he deserves a knighthood. Has he done enough for charity, in your opinion?
Andy Murray got one at 28.
Yeah, but Andy Murray had won Wimbledon. It would be the equivalent of David Beckham winning the World Cup or something. Well, that never happened, did it? Also this morning, a story we know a lot of you at home feel really strongly about, Lucy Connelly. I feel strongly about this as well. She is the mother who was banged up for 31 months for putting angry Facebook posts online, which she deleted after a few hours, and we're going to find out whether she can come out.
After the Southport killings.
That's right, thank you. And of course, she went to court last week and they said, we're not going to give you the judgment here in person, because why? Well, there might have been celebrations outside the court and that wouldn't look good. So they're emailing her the results today as to whether she can come home, but we will let you know how that goes. And a whole lot more this morning. GBNews.com/your say to let us know your thoughts. Here's Sam Francis, though, with your news.
Very good morning to you. The news you're waking up to this hour. The UK is in a better place than any other country on trade, according to the Chancellor. She says new deals with the EU, the US and India could boost growth. And the next target is a pact with Gulf nations like Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Rachel Reeves has described the recent deals as coming along like buses. The latest agreement with the EU covers food, fishing, defence and passport checks. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has called it a surrender that takes the UK to the past. Donald Trump claims both Ukraine and Russia want to end the war and says peace talks will start immediately. It follows a 2-hour phone call with Vladimir Putin, which Trump described as going very well. But he's warned the US will walk away from negotiations if there's no progress. Trump didn't reveal any details of the discussion and the Kremlin hasn't yet commented. The UK, France and Canada are all threatening concrete action against Israel if it continues its military campaign in Gaza. Sir Keir Starmer joined Emmanuel Macron and Mark Carney in condemning the blockade and warning the suffering in Gaza is, quote, intolerable. No food, fuel or medicine has entered since March, with the UN saying the toll on civilians is disastrous. Israel's Prime Minister insists the war is defensive and claims the Western leaders are rewarding Hamas. They're also urging the release of remaining hostages and backing calls for a ceasefire and a two-state solution. A major UK food distributor is being held to ransom by cyber hackers this morning, disrupting supplies to Tesco, Sainsbury's, Lidl and Aldi. Peter Greenchild says it suffered a ransomware attack on Wednesday night last week, halting orders and threatening thousands of products with waste. One supplier says the clock is ticking as meat pallets risk being binned. The firm says transport operations continue and clients are getting workarounds. It follows recent attacks on M&S and Co-op. And scientists in the United States have started building a vast underground detector that they hope could answer one of the universe's biggest mysteries. The neutrino experiment's being constructed nearly a mile beneath the Earth's surface. And researchers say it could help explain why the universe exists in its current form. Current theories of astronomy still can't quite account for how stars, planets and galaxies came to be, and it's hoped the project will shed light on the forces that shaped the cosmos. You're up to date just after 9:30. I'll be back with a full roundup at the top of the hour. Now, though, it's over to Andrew and Bev.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Very good morning. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning. Wow, we have got a lot to get through this morning. We are watching the dust settle on this EU deal. Actually, that's probably not the right sort of metaphor. Effectively, the dust has all been kicked up in the air and people are absolutely furious. We're going to be talking to an angry farmer a little bit later about it. And you particularly, Andrew, you're hacked off, aren't you, about the movement of people that is in...
It's a youth mobility scheme. It's free movement of people, by other words. Now, the government is doing... The spin the government are using, it's a youth experience scheme. I've just checked the definition of youth with the United Nations. Aged 15 to 24. This youth mobility scheme, which Starmer has signed up to, with no cap, no time limit, is 18 to 30. Now, the Telegraph is reporting today that the people who come here under the Youth Mobility Scheme, because we're not, Bev, you may call it Youth Experience Scheme, but I call it Youth Mobility Scheme, I call it Free Movement of People, could bring their families with them. I thought they were going to cut back on immigration. And if they bring their families, how long are they going to stay for? 3 years?
Well,
2 years? 1 year? 18 months?
For me, I'm OK with this element of this deal. I always thought it was a rough time. It was a rough deal, actually, for youngsters who couldn't go and do a gap year in Spain or France or be on the Erasmus scheme where you could go and study at a European university. 30 does feel a little old, but then we also need, 25-year-olds, 28-year-olds are not like that. Are more like 21-year-olds these days, unfortunately. None of them are particularly mature for their age. We need young people in this country to come and do some of the jobs. And I would rather have French, Spanish, Italian, German, young people that want to come and work here than importing loads of people from the third world to come and do the jobs
look,
here.
We've got 880,000, I think is the figure, young people aged between 18 and 24, not in employment, not in training, not in jobs. Get them off their backsides, get them off benefits. They can do the jobs. And if they don't do the jobs, they lose the benefits.
Yeah, but what they can do now is they can go and travel. This is one of the things that we did to the young people in the last 5 years, was we stopped them spreading their wings. And now British kids can also have a right to go to Europe and work in a French cafe or go to university.
I think they always did, but it was time limited. It was time limited. But the other thing is, of course, we are allowing these young people to come to our universities under this deal. They will pay reduced rates to go to university. So that putting, yet again, British people at a disadvantage. That's an outrage, in my view. And, of course, they want to come to our universities. I've checked. 5 of our universities are in the world's top 30. How many top universities are in Europe? 1, Munich, number 30. So we've got 5 in the top 30. Europe's got 1, Munich.
I don't think European students will be paying less fees than British students, though, to go to university in this country.
It's a bribe. It's a bribe. We've rolled over this whole thing. We've rolled over on the whole deal.
Don't get me wrong, I think it's horrific the way that Keir Starmer behaved yesterday. It's just on that one issue of young people being able to travel, I'm all right with that. But when he said, and the Guardian's put it on the front page, EU deal puts Britain back on the world stage, says Starmer. That's what he said. And again, it comes back to this idea, no, Keir Starmer, it put you on the world stage. And that's what you love. You love glad-handing with your globalist mates, kissing up to all the massive transnational corporations which are crushing small businesses in this country. This is not about this country. This is putting us, again, giving, and we're getting, it seems, nothing.
And we still don't know, by the way, how much we have to pay into the European Union because they've not told us, because they've not resolved it. They've done the deal, but we don't know what we're going to pay. Is it going to be $1 billion a year? 2 billion?
Yeah.
That's an outrage. And look at that picture on the... That will haunt you.
Damning. If you're listening on the radio, front page of the Daily Telegraph, it's Keir Starmer kissing Ursula von der Leyen on the cheek, and it says, kiss goodbye to Brexit. That is painful for the Labour Party.
It really is. It really is. And Labour MPs, the Prime Minister will be in the Commons later today. There'll be a statement. I don't know if he's making the statement or somebody else is, but... it'll be if any Labour MPs rise to their feet to express concern, then he'll be very worried because Reform are going to really make hay out of this.
Of course they are. And
as will the Tories.
And what about the 52% of people who voted for Brexit? Yeah. It's awful, actually. I think it's criminal what he's done to negotiate this deal. But we're going to be talking to lots of guests about it this morning. Let us know your thoughts as well.
Let's talk to Christopher Hope, who is, of course, our political editor, who's deeply steeped in all of this, Chris. I thought you posed a very interesting question earlier, Chris. Is this really worth it for the Labour government to reopen all this again for, I suspect, no political advantage and precious little economic advantage?
Yeah, morning, Andrew and Bev. Well, look at the numbers there, 0.2%. 0.3% of GDP growth. Rachel Reeves is trumpeting as an attempt here to upgrade our growth forecast. It might mitigate the need for spending cuts and maybe even tax increases in the budget in November. I think Keir Starmer is taking a gamble here. I think he thinks he can mitigate some of the worst elements of the Brexit deal done by Boris Johnson, the trade and cooperation agreement, when food's left at ports going off in lorries, they can't sell UK shellfish into the European Union, mitigate that and try and move on. Now, I think there's a trap here, possibly. You may not agree with me on this, but if the Tories and Reform will fight the next election on reversing Brexit, by then, in 4 years' time, you've got a Labour Party moving on from Brexit. And Brexit was a very, very difficult time for so many families divided over the dinner table, big rows across the board, across our society about Brexit. Labour and the Tories will be saying, I'm going to reverse this deal done by Sir Keir Starmer and Ursula von der Leyen. And then what do you want? Do you want to go back into that battle or move on into the 2030s? So I think there's a possible longer-term win. I take your point you're making there, Bev and Andrew. It's stirring up the anger, the fury we're seeing in our postbags at GB News. I would also say, look at what's been agreed. Not very much. Nothing on this youth experience scheme. Will it be 80 million people allowed to come here, as Boris Johnson says? Probably not. We're told by Sarah Jones on GB News moments ago. But other deals too. No price on defence deal, nothing on artist visas, nothing on passport e-gates in terms of member states can veto it if they want to, nothing on professionals coming across. And how much are we paying for the access to the clearing away red tape? The Swiss pay hundreds of millions of pounds. Are we paying billions? So many questions. Brexit is a process, not a destination.
All right, Chris. That's Chris Hope, our political editor.
Let's talk now to James Matthewson, former Labour strategist, and dairy farmer Charles Godby. Join us now. Charles, let's come to you first. Your reaction, please, to this EU deal. Does this make life better for farmers?
Initially, you'd look at it and say, Europe is probably one of our bigger trading partners. It's on our doorstep. It makes sense. But actually, when you look at the detail, yes, we're better than where we were a few days ago, but are we better than where we were historically? And the answer is no, because UK and food production standards, everything in this country has moved on away from Brexit. So we're not competing on a level playing field again. So this is yet another kick for UK farmers and food producers.
Do you mean that you'd be held to standards, Charles, but you won't necessarily have subsidies?
Exactly. So it's going to benefit processors and retailers. They're going to get easy movement. But for the food producers, for the farmers, it's absolutely, it's going to be more of a hit to us than a help.
James, what's your assumption? Presumably, assuming that you are pro the EU. So what are we missing here? Why should we be celebrating?
I'm not necessarily pro the EU. I mean, we've left the EU. We had Brexit. I voted Remain. Not that it's relevant, but we've left the EU. We are out the EU. This deal, separately from that, is about trying to get good relations with Europe, with the continent. As Charles just said there, whilst it might be difficult, might be a challenge overall, it's Brexit that caused the majority of those problems and put us in this situation for UK businesses really struggling. And as he's just said, this is better than a few days ago, so it's move in the right direction, so to speak.
So hang on, James, can I jump in, because we're always limited on time? So farmers like Charles will have to follow EU regulations, and yet this government will have absolutely no say in whether those regulations are right or wrong. We'll be law takers, but we won't be lawmakers, and we still don't know what it's going to cost us in terms of the money we have to put into the EU bank. And by the way, the European Court of Justice will meddle and stick its nose in if they don't think we're doing the right thing on those regulations.
Yes, but it's not. We're not a member of the EU. The way this has been spun by so many.
No, quite. That's the point. That's the point. We're a law taker, not a lawmaker.
We're not a law taker, not a lawmaker. It's a deal,
we are.
Andrew. It's a deal. It's not a membership. It's not, we're not taking laws and rules from other people. We're aligning so that we can trade with people. That's the way the deals work. That's the way the trade deals work.
We're aligning with their rules, exactly, James. We're aligning with their rules, and we have no say in it.
Yeah, that's how it works when you want to trade with a bloc. So
we're a law taker, not a lawmaker. Charles, do you feel happy about that, Charles?
Are we a law taker?
James, hang on, we get Charles in here.
No, let me finish my point.
Go on, hurry up then.
Are we a law taker from the United States of America?
We're talking about the European Union, if you don't mind, Charles.
Exactly, because we're in exactly the same position as we are.
Charles, you're going to have to be a law taker.
Yes, as we are with the United States as well, to a certain degree, on the fact that we have no say on what's coming into this country and the standards. Now, what we're seeing in this deal is Starmer just trying to lord himself up, as you've said, just trying to grasp any deal he can, just to try and get... But he doesn't care who he's throwing under the bus. He's throwing the fishermen under the bus in this deal. We've seen him throw farmers under the bus in previous deals. And it's all about trying to get cheap food. But what is the long-term cost of cheap food? Food in this country, we're the third cheapest in the world, but we've got farmers who are struggling to get by. Farmers left, right and centre. We've got mental health problems, suicide. We've got farms going out of business because they can't afford to produce food.
We
that
could
might
talk
sound
tomorrow morning,
crass.
gentlemen. I'm so sorry, Charles. We've run out of time. We're up against the clock. Charles Godby there and James Matthewson. Sorry, gentlemen. Let us know your thoughts at home. Up next, has one call between Trump and Putin put a stop to 3 years of fighting? But first, holiday forecast. Here it is.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy showers for central and northern Italy and Croatia over the next few days. Generally sunny over the Greek islands. Plenty of sunshine for Iberia at the moment, but we are looking at more wet weather, especially for northern Spain and the Balearics come the end of the week. There are those showers over Italy, some pretty heavy downpours over parts of the Balkans. We'll continue with the risk of showers here through the week. Sunny skies for most of the Greek islands, certainly for Cyprus and much of Turkey as well. Santorini stays sunny for the rest of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers, so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Ranjit Mathrani. Ranjit, welcome to the show. You're being booted out by the Crown or State. What's going on?
Well, the answer is I don't know, because they keep on giving different reasons on different occasions with one simple objective, to get us out of the premises. And the irony is that 1 year before they decided not to terminate our lease, they actually invited us to take over more space on the first floor of the restaurant. And then they dramatically changed their mind. I'm sorry about the background noise, I'm the evidence. They dramatically changed their mind after a blocked drain, which they blamed on us, which wiped out their electrics. And they claim they needed space, 11 square meters of the space for their entrance. On other occasions, they claim they need the space in order to do the refurbishment works. Neither of those arguments are very convincing. They could have a reception space if they wanted to on the first floor, and they can work around us, as many landlords have done, in refurbishing the offices.
So, Ranjit, if I may interject, Ranjit, if I may interject, we don't have a great deal of time left. Ostensibly, they're trying to hike up your rent, and you think they're using a backdoor method of doing so to get you out. You're an institution in London.
We are indeed an institution. Not only that, we are a living institution. You know, we were invited to cater for the Queen on 2 occasions, but in Paris, she in fact agreed to have dinner with us before COVID struck.
GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I did say, it's time, you got to stop this thing. And I believe he wants to stop. Look, I would be, I think, very able to tell whether or not he wanted to or what. I thought there was a very good chance, like a 50-50 chance, that he would say, I want to take the whole thing. I didn't know what he was going to say. And then they have a different kind of a problem. But I believe he wants to stop. Be sure.
That's President Trump saying that Vladimir Putin and President Zelensky will immediately start negotiating towards a ceasefire and end the war after a successful 2-hour phone call with Putin. Let's get more on this with Republican spokesperson Noralee Knutson. Good morning, Noralee. Great to see you. Donald Trump said that if he won the presidency, he would have fixed this within the week. He hasn't, but this looks like it might be progress.
I would agree with you. This is massive progress. He's demonstrated he's a deal maker, and he's going to use aligning people's economic interests to get a deal done. He knows how to maneuver and change gears. He'll put the pressure on Zelensky. He'll put the pressure on Putin. He'll back off. And now he's getting Putin excited about a massive trade deal with the U.S. when the war stops. I'm very optimistic. He's also engaged the Vatican and taken up Pope Leo on his offer to use the Vatican to negotiate this peace process. So I'm very hopeful.
And just explain that to us, Nora. So, Noralee, so that in terms of the trade deal with Russia, how significant would that be for the rest of the world?
I think that would be very significant for the West in particular. If we can engage Russia as our neighbor here in Europe with large landmass, large mineral reserves to work together. And as Putin said, he wanted to get to the root cause of the war. And this is one thing that Trump understands, is that by threatening, the way Putin sees it, NATO membership for Ukraine, this is ultimately what Trump believes caused the conflict.
Thank you so much, Noralee. Great to see you. Still to come this morning.
Tommy Robinson's attempt to cut the length of his prison sentence to contempt of court will be heard very soon. Don't miss it. This is Britain's Newsroom. Here's the weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A fine sunny day for most places today, but we are again going to see a few showers, and they could be quite heavy, especially so across Northern Ireland. It is another pretty grey start over parts of southeast Scotland, northeast England. That cloud melting away through the morning, always potentially sticking to some of these coasts, but most places dry and sunny. But the clouds bubbling up this afternoon. We will see a few showers, maybe for Wales, certainly across Northern Ireland, perhaps southwest Scotland too. Feeling quite warm, though, a bit warmer than yesterday in the south, 23, 24, perhaps even up to 25 Celsius. Again, some of these North Sea coasts will be a little fresher, and certainly temperature will drop down where we see these heavy showers breaking out, which could easily affect parts of southern and western Northern Ireland. The far north of Scotland, always the possibility of the Har returning here. Small chance of a shower over southwest Scotland, northwest England, but a greater risk of those showers for Northern Ireland, where they could be slow-moving thunderstorms. So just something to keep an eye on here through the day. Small chance of a shower too for Wales, perhaps even the Midlands, but most places across England and Wales dry and fine. It'll start to cloud over in the southwest a little bit as we go through the afternoon into the evening, so sunshine turning hazy, and then that cloud thickening up. We're more likely to see some rain coming into South Wales, southwest England as we go through the early hours. Elsewhere, a dry night to come. Again, that mist and low cloud just drifting back inland over parts of eastern Scotland and eastern England. Bit of a chilly one over Scotland. Temperatures well down into single figures here. Different feel, though, tomorrow for South Wales, southwest England. More cloud and some outbreaks of rain. And we could see some heavy showers even developing over southeast England and the Midlands. Could be some welcome rain, but if you get a heavy downpour, it's going to drop a lot of rain in a short space of time. Those heavy downpours will be very hit and miss. Many places, again, dry and fine. A drier day for Northern Ireland. Again, cool on some North Sea coasts. High teens, low 20s elsewhere.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the M8 westbound at junction 27, a bale of hay on the carriageway urges caution. The M4 westbound from Langeflath junction 46 to Penlegair junction 47 faces diversions due to electrical works, affecting slip roads and closing one lane. In the Sandwell area, an overturned vehicle on the M6 northbound between junctions 7 and 8 causes 50-minute delays. On the M271 southbound between junction 1 and the A35, congestion results in a 10-minute delay. And on the trains, Cross Country and Great Western Railway face disruptions between Cardiff Central and Newport and through Salisbury. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com. O2
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness.
That's wonderful. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and he did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
10 a.m. on Tuesday the 20th of May, live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce.
Brexit reset or reversal or even surrender?
This is the first UK-EU summit. It marks a new era in our relationship. And this deal is a win-win.
And he's turning this country once again into the orange ball-chewing, leather trust gimp.
Boris Johnson there slamming the Prime Minister's deal with the EU as a total sellout, with European boats having fishing access to British waters until 2038.
We're here in North Shields, England's largest prawn port's getting reaction from fishermen to that deal, meaning the EU will have access to British waters for the next 12 years.
Any moment now, Tommy Robinson's attempt to cut his 18-month prison sentence for breaking contempt laws will be heard in the High Court.
But I did say it's time, you got to stop this thing. And I believe he wants to stop.
That's the world's greatest president, Donald Trump, saying that peace talks between Russia and Ukraine will begin immediately after his 2-hour phone call with Vladimir Putin.
Also this morning, Lucy Connelly is appealing against her 31-month prison sentence for inciting racial hatred on Twitter after the Southport murders. We will get the verdict on that appeal.
And Blair battles overweight Britain. Sir Tony Blair says that half of British adults should be able to get their hands on fat jabs through the post, apparently to make us all healthier. But what about the side effects?
Golden balls and golden jewels. The King and Queen went to the Chelsea Flower Show alongside that man David Beckham. Is he fishing for a knighthood? You bet he is.
Busy morning on Britain's Newsroom today. That Tommy Robinson appeal hearing and also the Lucy Connelly one. We'll be getting that in our time, so stay here with us. And we also want to know your reaction to us cozying back up to the EU. Is there anything in it for Britain that you can see? GBNews.com/your say. First, though, Sam Francis with your headlines.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom at 2 minutes past 10. The top story, well, the UK is in a better place than any other country on trade, according to the Chancellor. She says new deals with the EU, US and India could boost growth, and the next target is a pact with Gulf nations like Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Rachel Reeves described the recent deals as coming along like buses. The latest agreement with the EU covers food, fishing, defence and passport checks. But Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has called it a surrender that takes the UK to the past. Donald Trump claims both Ukraine and Russia want to end the war and says peace talks will start immediately. It follows a 2-hour phone call with Vladimir Putin, which Donald Trump described as going very well. But he's warned the US will walk away from negotiations if there's no progress. Trump didn't reveal any details of the discussion, and the Kremlin hasn't yet commented. The UK, France and Canada are threatening concrete action against Israel if it continues its military campaign in Gaza. Sir Keir Starmer has joined Emmanuel Macron and Mark Carney in condemning the blockade and warning the suffering in Gaza is, quote, intolerable. No food, fuel or medicine has entered since March, with the UN saying the toll on civilians is disastrous. Israel's Prime Minister insists the war is defensive, though, and claims the Western leaders are rewarding Hamas. They're also urging the release of remaining hostages and backing calls for a ceasefire and a two-state solution. A major UK food distributor is being held to ransom by cyber hackers, and it's disrupting supplies to a number of major retailers, including Tesco, Sainsbury's, Lidl and Aldi. The company, Peter Green Chilled, says it suffered a ransomware attack on Wednesday night, halting orders and threatening thousands of products with waste. One supplier says the clock is ticking as meat pallets risk being binned. The firm says transport operations continue, though, and clients are getting workarounds. It follows recent attacks on M&S and Co-op, amid warnings the cold chain sector is under growing threat. And scientists in the United States have started building a vast underground detector that they hope could answer one of the universe's biggest mysteries. The neutrino experiment's being constructed nearly a mile beneath the Earth's surface. And researchers say it could help explain why the universe exists in its current form. Current theories of astronomy can't quite account for how stars, planets and galaxies came to be. But it's hoped the project will shed light on the forces that shaped the cosmos. That's it from me for now. I'll be back with you in around 30 minutes' time. Now, though, it's over to Britain's Newsroom.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Right, there's so much going on this morning. Honestly, just keep us with you. And even if you have to pop out of the house and turn off your telly, get us on your digital radio. As you know, a lot of you listen to us on the radio.
Loads of people.
Loads of people. 50% more of you than last quarter, to be precise.
Absolutely.
Now, Gary Lineker, we were talking about this yesterday, leaving the BBC. He's basically done one tweet too many, hasn't he? And he's had to go. Guess what the papers are saying today? That he might be going to ITV.
Oh.
To host football on ITV. What's wrong with these people who run these TV channels? We don't just want the same old faces. Do you think, as a football fan, you would turn on ITV to watch the football just because Gary Lineker is hosting the World Cup? No, he's got nothing to do with it. Why would ITV want to spend another £1 million plus on Gary Lineker? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Just have some imagination. There's loads of great football presenters out there. There's loads of brilliant sports commentators. Just let him go to pasture, do his political stuff.
Yeah.
Be happy and excited doing his political stuff because he obviously enjoys that.
Also,
off you go.
He also he's the mastermind behind some incredibly successful, lucrative podcasts.
Yeah.
You've had your time, Lineker. Now clear off.
Bookies are offering odds of 3-1 that he'll be back on the telly,
God.
hosting ITV's World Cup coverage
Perhaps.
next year.
Has he already done the deal, which is why he went from the BBC so quickly?
Honestly, if he does, then it just is, for me, it's why legacy telly is dying, because it's just like moving around, just all the same people get all the same jobs. Only on GB News do you get interesting and...
I think Beverly's got an vested interest here. I think she'd like to be the new Match of the Day commentator.
Oh, give me... Can you imagine? I mean, I really wouldn't, but it does... I do find it outrageous that they pay... I've said yesterday, taxpayers' money, £1.3 million of taxpayers' money on Gary Lineker to talk about football.
I know.
Not acceptable. If he's all this self-righteous guy that he reckons he is, then say, no, I'm not taking that much taxpayers' money to talk about football.
The only consolation is he's not got a payoff.
What, from the BBC?
Yeah.
Well, we presume not. Do we know that for a fact?
It's been pretty extensively reported, that. That's what we think, anyway.
Let's see what you've been saying at home this morning. As we said, we're also waiting on the result of the Lucy Connelly appeal and the Tommy Robinson appeal to both of those sentences in our time this morning. TU has said, so the advantages are we sell more sausages, except, as sausage makers have said, the EU don't want our sausages, and shorter queues at the airports.
But we haven't got shorter queues at the airports yet because, again, the big selling point from the government was that we would be able to use the e-gates, but that is dependent on the particular EU state. So if they don't want us to use the e-gates, we can't. Exactly. And by the way, there's agreement with no countries this is, so that's not going to be happening this summer anytime soon, and may not happen in most of the countries. So even that was the big selling point. And I just remind you, a few weeks ago, Labour put out a poster of queues at customs under the Tories and Brexit, post-Brexit under Labour. That poster is a lie.
Yeah.
Because there's no deal.
Leslie said, I'd happily give up sausages for our freedom from Europe. I'd give up a lot just to get rid of Labour forever and get a decent native people-centric government in power ASAP. She's telling you to vote Reform. Wales and Scotland, please wake up. Help us get this communist gang of thugs out of Parliament. Does anyone know a legal way to force another general election?
No.
If so, please stand up and tell us. If not, what is a viable alternative? The anger amongst the country right now about this is quite palpable. It really is. And it's not just the inbox at GB News. People I talk to every single day. Beckham is fishing for a knighthood, says Simon. Morning, Simon. Starmer, Khan, Blair, etc. They've all made them worthless by association. Might as well give him one as well. In fact, stock them as a Dutchy product line in Waitrose. And Union Jack says, so we have a rough idea of the number of billions that we'll be paying to the EU. Can one person please give us the figures back? I heard 250 million. Was it 500 million? It would be cheaper just to compensate those companies and stuff.
We don't have a figure. No. It's not in the agreement, and it could be up to $1 billion. It could be more than $1 billion.
Well, honestly, we're just being led by idiots.
I just don't know why you sign a deal if you don't know how much it's going to cost you, if you don't know how many people are going to come here under the Youth Mobility Scheme, how long they're going to come for, what the cap is. Why would you sign that deal?
And we joined the World Health Organisation's pandemic treaty yesterday as well. That slid under the radar without anybody talking about it. We will be. Right, so Keir Starmer has unveiled what he calls this reset deal with the European Union. One of the most heavily affected deals is fishing, giving the EU access to UK waters for 12 years. Anna Riley is with some fishermen. Anna, what are you hearing there?
Good morning to you both. Well, we're here in North Shields, up in the northeast, and it is actually England's largest port for prawn fishing. I'm delighted to be joined by Nick Hanlon. He runs the North Shields Fishing Quay Company. Nick, just tell us a little bit about the fishing industry here.
So we are predominantly a prawn port, as you touched on there. We have about 25 to 30 local trawlers, and then we have a visiting fleet of anywhere from 40 to 60 boats from the northeast of Scotland and Ireland during the winter prawn season.
What's the heritage of fishing here?
Well, fishing was first recorded here in 1225, which is exactly 800 years ago, which is when the monks from Tynemouth Priory came down and they started to catch fish at the gut here to take back to feed the other monks. Since then, they've had all kinds of fishing here, so from steam trawlers catching a lot of whitefish through to a big herring and sprat fleet, to then, again, a lot more cod, haddock, white and whitefish like that, and then eventually the prawn fishing kind of took off here in the 70s and 80s, and we've been catching them ever since.
What's your reaction to this trade deal that we've done with the EU in terms of how it's going to be another 12 years that the EU will have access to our waters?
I mean, for North Shields, it's not really going to have a direct impact, certainly not right away anyways. We don't have issues with boats from EU countries coming into our waters here. I understand why in ports such as down in the Channel they might be up in arms about that, because obviously they were initially promised after 5 years it would be phased out. So I can understand why there is concern within the industry. However, I think as one of the biggest impacts of Brexit here has been the fact that because we export around 90% of what we catch to Europe, it's been a lot more difficult for exporters to do that. So if, as part of that trade deal, it becomes a little bit easier to access those markets and there's not as much red tape to access them, it could potentially actually benefit the industry here.
So for the shellfish industry, potentially a benefit with lifting that red tape. They've said as well there'll be a £360 million fund for fishing for coastal communities. What's this coastal community like? Does it need more investment?
Absolutely, it does. We have the potential there because we have a really strong fishery to really thrive, but we need that infrastructure improved. So in order to do that, we obviously do need government funding.
How critical is the fishing industry for Britain? Because some critics of this say, oh, well, fishing's only a small part of our whole GDP.
You're right in what you say there. It doesn't contribute a huge amount to the economy in terms of GDP, but politically and in these small fishing communities, it's absolutely vital. It's everything to the towns around the country here.
How important is it as well to get younger people into fishing? Because it's around 50 years old, the average age.
Yeah, you look around the fishing industry and there are fewer and fewer younger people coming in. It's vital to try and get them into the industry, and obviously things like improving the infrastructure is only going to help them do that.
And do you feel listened to by government, or do you feel ignored in communities like this?
I think our local MP here, he does listen to the concerns of the industry, so we're quite fortunate in that way. But I could understand why, after Keir Starmer's announcement here, why the people do feel a little bit ignored.
What would you like to see for the future?
More investment in fishing in North Shields here. Like I say, we need money put into the infrastructure so that we can improve what we've got here, which is a brilliant little fleet and a great fishery.
Yeah, just tell us a little bit about the fleet here. I understand May is a quieter month, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the quietest month of the year here for fishing in North Shields. So we would have fewer boats active here in this month than any other month. A lot of the boats will now just be getting lifted out, painted, a little bit of maintenance done. Some of them have already moved round to other fishing grounds on the west coast of Scotland. Some of them move up to the Firth of Forth and Eyemouth area. So it is a very quiet month, and it'll probably get going again middle to end of June.
Do you think it boosts tourism in a way? I was in Scarborough yesterday, and certainly visiting the harbour is a part of a tourist experience as well that brings people in.
Yeah, massively, and that's been a big development here in the last 10 years. If you have a wander around this morning, you'll see the amount of pubs and restaurants and things like that, and the amount of tourists you get down here. It's created its own little kind of food tourism industry, and people like to come down and they like the romance of eating their fish and chips next to the fishing boats and seeing them coming in and unloading their catch and stuff like that. So yeah, it kind of has become a bit of a sort of jewel in the crown of North Tyneside, the fish quay.
And on that though, talking about food, have you seen an impact on the fish and chip industry with prices going up?
So yeah, the prices of fish and chips has gone up, but the price of fish hasn't really increased all that much. Certainly not in the time that I've been here, which has been 11 years. The price of fish hasn't increased an awful lot. What we're tending to see now, though, is certainly on North Shields fish market, is you're not seeing as much of your traditional whitefish species like cod, haddock, whiting. They seem to have gone and chased the colder water a bit further north, and in its place you're getting more prime species like halibut, monkfish, turbot. So the prices on the market here are great, but it's just because it's a different species to what was there previously.
Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you for speaking to us on GB News this morning. So that's the view here from North Shields. Potentially some positivity on the horizon with those exports to the EU if that red tape is lifted.
Thank you, Anna. It just looks like the most beautiful day. I'm very envious of people who get
I've been to North Shields. It's very
work
nice.
on the sea.
I did a tour of the North East a couple of years ago. It was lovely. Really nice.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Tyneside, it's really lovely.
Thank you, Anna.
Underwhelmed.
I want to go swimming in that water.
Looks, yeah. Will it be clean?
it doesn't really matter, does it?
Now, time's running out. Your chance to win the great British giveaway. You can drive away with that motorhome worth over £67,000, and don't forget the £5,000 cash. Here's all your details you need.
It's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be spending your summer touring in this stylish Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, worth over £67,000. This brand new 2025 model comes complete with kitchen and bathroom areas and enough space to comfortably sleep a family of 4. We'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to add a few of your favourite things, or just spend it however you like. Don't miss out as lines close on the 6th of June. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still ahead, Lucy Connelly is appealing against a 31-month prison sentence for inciting racial hatred on Twitter after the Southport murders. We think we're going to get the verdict on whether her appeal has been upheld. Coming up next.
And an ardent Remainer is going to join us in the studio to try and convince us why yesterday wasn't one almighty Brexit betrayal. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Very good morning to you. And if you're planning to visit one of Britain's many beauty spots next bank holiday or Easter weekend, beware of your car.
Yeah, a rising number of tourist attractions are banning coaches and some cars to help ease overcrowding.
We're here to debate if vehicles should be stopped from parking near attractions. Government Relations Manager at the Countryside Alliance, David Bean, and founder of Fair Fuel UK campaign, Howard Cox. Good morning to you both.
David, how much of a problem are tourists when there are too many of them and they bring their great camper vans and they park all their cars in a line so you actually can't see the beauty spot you went to see? How much of a problem is it?
It can be a significant problem in certain areas. I'm in Scotland for the holidays, and particularly in areas such as the Highlands and Islands, there are areas that have very, very badly been affected. Even some camper vans end up getting taken out to certain places on the islands and then just abandoned after a holiday is finished.
Honestly, this is horses for courses, and to be fair, you know, I actually do believe that we need better signage, better planning, and Cameron hit the nail on the head. You can't get to these beauty spots unless you have some sort of transport to get there. And, you know, public transport is woeful across the country in these areas. Obviously, yesterday in the Berlin Gap one, you can't legislate for idiots. It needs better signage, better information, but if you take people away from it, you take income away from the community. You know, I think any organisation that's promoting a beauty spot that's making money out of it should be paying for better signage, better parking facilities, etc. I do not like the idea of cars being, you know, queuing up illegally, you could say. That's ridiculous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
10:21, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Bev, and we're delighted to say that we're joined in the studio by GP and medical writer Dr René Hoenderkamp and GB News' senior political editor and Brexit fanboy Nigel Nelson. You celebrating, Nigel?
I am celebrating. I think this is actually a really good deal that he's come back with. And every reaction since has been predictable. Whatever the deal had been struck yesterday, the Daily Mail, the Sun and the Daily Telegraph would have come out with the kind of headlines they did today. Starmer's surrender on the Daily Mail there. What Kemi Badenoch said was predictable. What Nigel Farage said was predictable. Brexiteers don't seem to understand that the idea of just getting closer to Europe does not mean a betrayal of Brexit.
But that is surely because the likes of Farage and Kemi Badenoch are in tune with the British people and they understand democracy, René.
And also, well, I was just going to say, the reason that it's predictable, Nigel, is that we had the biggest mandate ever from a vote in this country, 72% turnout. What was it when Keir Starmer got into power? The lowest ever. The biggest democratic exercise that we've ever had to leave Europe. Admittedly, the Tories did it appallingly. Frankly, I would have gone for a no deal and then let Europe come begging, because they would have done. But then that's because I used to negotiate for a living, and Starmer doesn't seem to know the meaning of that word. It is actually a surrender. It is doing exactly what Starmer always said. He said very clearly before he was Prime Minister he would rather be on Davos than in Westminster. He is a global elite who just wants to be part of this club where he can shake hands and look good. He's not in touch with the British working person. This is not going to put food on people's tables. And it's ironic that last week he started talking tough on immigration because of reform and for no other reason. And now he's going to open up the doors for all of our low-paid jobs that he's apparently going to stop migrants taking to be taken by the youth of Spain and France and all of those countries. It's smoke and mirrors. It's I'm going to give you this.
Well, you mentioned food. It doesn't actually help food. Of course it does. On the basis that now, first of all, it'll be cheaper. As a result of Brexit, I mean, food has gone up about 25% over the last 5 years. As a result of Brexit, about 8% within that 25% can be directly attributed to the problems that Brexit caused. Now, by opening up the borders for without the customs checks, that will make food cheaper, make it easier to export. For our farmers, even for our perhaps not the fishermen, but the fish sellers, it'll be much easier to be able to go and do that. All these kind of trade deals will actually help the economy, not as much as the economy could have been helped if we hadn't left Europe, but at least we're addressing some of the bad things that came out of Brexit.
Nigel, all this is going to help is big business. The fact that yesterday the only people that were happy about this were the Tesco's of the world, who make billions every year, tells you exactly who it's going to help. Our inflation figures tomorrow are predicted to be about 3.3 at the lowest. So inflation is on its way up. I guarantee you that not one price in the supermarket will be lower in 6 months' time because of this deal. So people are not going to feel it in their food, but Tesco's are going to get it in their profits. I agree with you, because it's cheaper than to put lorries over.
And of course, also the CBI like it, and the Institute of Directors like it, and the Chambers of Commerce like it, because we're going to get a flood of cheap foreign labour coming in, which is exactly why they wanted to keep the opposed Brexit. Because, Nigel, you cannot call a youth mobility scheme youth when the definition of youth is 15 to 24. You were going to have 30-year-olds coming in from Eastern Europe and taking our jobs. And the Daily Telegraph is reporting why they can bring, part of the deal, they'll be able to bring their families. I thought your lot wanted to cut immigration.
Well, I mean, that is the one difficulty, political difficulty for
There's more than one
Starmer.
political difficulty. There's lots more political difficulties.
Well, if you want to stick to this particular one, I think he's got a real difficulty with that. If these people come in for more than a year, they end up on the immigration figures. And after you've made a rather sort of forceful speech against immigration, that's going to cause Keir Starmer a problem if the figures go up. I do take that point. On the basis of a youth mobility scheme, we do it with 11 countries. We've got 9,800 Australians over here who are on these schemes.
Are they 30 years old?
Nigel, how many...
They are between 18 and 30,
What's the population of Australia?
About 15 million.
There's 80 million people in Europe who could come here under this scheme.
But hang on.
There is no comparison.
This is
a strong... No,
there's a cap.
There's no cap. We don't know it yet. So
we haven't got a deal yet on that, so we don't know where it's going.
That's because the EU hasn't told us what the deal is yet, because that's how Starmer
when we get a
negotiates.
deal, the idea is it'll be time limited. I think a year is ridiculous. I think it does have to be 3 years, in the same way that it operates for Commonwealth countries
This is a
and
straw
Japan.
man argument. These are tiny numbers of people. Last time this happened, we thought there were 3 million Europeans here. There were actually 6, because we're so rubbish at counting. There are going to be millions of young people.
So you didn't
they
know
are
who was here.
going to take the low-paid jobs that actually we should be forcing our businesses to increase the salaries of and make our own young people
Do you not
take
think it's
them.
more likely they'll come over here and study?
No!
In the same way that our students can go to Europe and study.
Do you know why our students don't go to Europe and study, Nigel?
Well, they can't at the moment. We haven't got
but
a
do you
youth
know why
mobility
they
scheme.
won't? Because they don't speak the language. But the Europeans do speak English. Some of them will come here and study, yes. But our universities, we should actually scrap half of them. This is feeding into the universities who just want overseas students coming. They want to fill up the places. This is feeding into big business who want to keep low salaries, and this will allow them to do it. The care homes were crying last week because they might have to pay people more in this country to actually look after our elderly. Now they won't have to, because people will come from Europe and do it
Hang on, that's not what a youth mobility scheme is about.
They're
I mean,
allowed to work in whatever job they want, Nigel.
They can go and do that, of course they can. And they can come here to study as well. They can come here just to tour the country. The whole thing is that we have a swap scheme where our young people can go over there and theirs can come over here. At the moment, the plan is there will be a cap on the numbers, so you won't get loads of East Europeans coming in that Andrew seems to be worried about.
27 countries can send their people here. We're one country, can send our people there. Do you not see it's disproportionate?
It depends what the cap is, doesn't it? I mean, the whole thing is that what you would do with the cap is that you wouldn't make it a fixed cap. You would cap it initially, so you have
You're flailing, Nigel.
the original
Nigel,
number of people
flailing.
No, but do you know why Nigel's flailing? Nigel's flailing because he is emotionally wedded to being part of this failing superstate, just as Starmer is, and just just as I didn't interrupt
Brexiteers
you.
were emotional.
Don't interrupt
Brexit
me.
was an emotional vote.
Yes, that's right, and it's an emotional vote to take back our sovereignty, which we have now just given back to them. For me, the biggest crime
who polices a trade deal if it's not the
crime
European Court
here
of Justice?
is rejoining the European courts of justice,
But who
giving over our sovereignty to lawyers.
Who polices when there's a dispute? Who polices that dispute?
Well, who polices it when the Indian trade deal? Who polices the Indian trade deal we've done?
You've done it through the trade deal itself.
Right.
The argument here is
but there's no court policing.
There's no court.
Quite. So why do we need a European court to police it?
Because you're dealing with 27 countries. There is a mechanism already set up. It operates in Northern Ireland, and we don't seem to have had it.
We have to do what they say, and we have no impact because we're now rule takers.
We've left Europe, so we have no say in future regulations that are brought in.
They just impose them, and that's apparently a good deal.
Now this is us giving away our sovereignty, which is what we wanted back. Nobody.
Why did you want sovereignty back? What did you want it for?
I want to be able to do trade deals all over the world. We now may
So that's a tick box.
We may now have actually put our American relationship at risk. We'll see when Trump's eyes off of Putin and Ukraine. Let's see what he thinks about this. Let's see what he thinks about Europe. We've just stymied ourselves in terms of energy because we now couldn't
save £800 million on carbon taxes.
Maybe. Or we could actually ruin our trade relationships with America, India and all of the other countries because we have to charge them more because of their carbon footprint to stay in line with Europe. Don't keep quoting these figures of 800. The government have not even produced how they've come up with these numbers. There's no workings.
No, I mean,
there's
no transparency
on the figures. And Priti Patel made the point, there's no economic impact assessment done at all.
Well, you can't have that till the details are done.
Nigel, Renee, thank you so much. I think I might have just changed my mind, Renee, about the youth experience travel. Thanks to you.
Don't call it experience, it's youth mobility.
Youth mobility. I think I might have changed my mind on that. You'll be pleased to know. I am very open-minded. I'm able to be persuaded. Sam Francis is here. He's very persuasive. He's got your headlines.
Very good morning to you. It is exactly 31 minutes past 10. The top story, the Prime Minister says a new trade deal with the EU marks a new era in UK relations with Europe, calling it good for bills, good for jobs and good for borders. That deal will see Brits use EU passport e-gates again, farmers face fewer export checks and young people access a new youth experience scheme. And British burgers and sausages will also return to the EU market, and UK steel exports will dodge £25 million in tariffs. The backlash is growing over a 12-year extension for EU fishing in UK waters, with Reform UK warning of the end of the fishing industry. Well, the Shadow Foreign Secretary Dame Priti Patel claims Labour has betrayed Brexit and betrayed Britain.
Keir Starmer never believed in Brexit. He spent all his time campaigning to unpick Brexit. He was being dishonest with the British public. He basically did not go into the general election last year and say that his reset would mean that we'd become a rule taker all over again and under the European Court of Justice, which is effectively what has happened. He deceived the British public. He never said that we'd end up paying the EU, and that's what we are doing again.
Donald Trump claims both Ukraine and Russia do want an end to the war and says peace talks will start immediately. It follows a 2-hour phone call with Vladimir Putin, which Trump described as going very well. But he's warned the US will walk away from negotiations if there's no progress. Donald Trump didn't reveal any details of the discussions, though, and the Kremlin hasn't commented so far. The UK, France and Canada are all threatening concrete action against Israel if it continues its military campaign in Gaza. Sir Keir Starmer joined Emmanuel Macron and Mark Carney in condemning the blockade and warning the suffering in Gaza is intolerable. No food, fuel or medicine has entered since March, with United Nations saying the toll on civilians is disastrous. Well, we are just hearing, in fact, from a UN humanitarian spokesperson that they have confirmed around 100 trucks have been approved today to now enter Gaza. But that comes as Israel's Prime Minister insists the war is defensive and is claiming the Western leaders pushing against him are simply rewarding Hamas. They're also urging the release of remaining hostages and backing calls for a ceasefire and a two-state solution. And a major UK food distributor is being held to ransom by cyber hackers disrupting supplies to Tesco, Sainsbury's, Lidl and to Aldi. The company, Peter Green Chilled, says it suffered a ransomware attack on Wednesday night, halting orders and threatening thousands of products with waste. One supplier says the clock is ticking as meat pallets risk being binned. The firm, though, says transport operations are continuing and clients are getting workarounds. Those are the latest headlines for now. A full roundup of all the top stories at 11 o'clock. Next, though, let's take a look at the finance markets.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Well, here's how the markets are shaping up this morning. The pound will buy you $1.3377 and €1.1878. The price of gold, £2,421.47 per ounce. The FTSE 100 is currently at 8,745 points.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Up next, Princess Catherine has inspired Deloitte, one of Britain's leading businesses, to offer new fathers 6 months of fully paid paternity leave. Should paternity and maternity pay be equal in 2025? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A fine sunny day for most places today, but we are again going to see a few showers and they could be quite heavy, especially so across Northern Ireland. It is another pretty grey start over parts of southeast Scotland, northeast England. That cloud melting away through the morning, always potentially sticking to some of these coasts, but most places dry and sunny. But the clouds bubbling up this afternoon. We will see a few showers, maybe for Wales, certainly across Northern Ireland, perhaps southwest Scotland too. Feeling quite warm, though, a bit warmer than yesterday in the south, 23, 24, perhaps even up to 25 Celsius. Again, some of these North Sea coasts will be a little fresher, and certainly temperature will drop down where we see these heavy showers breaking out, which could easily affect parts of southern and western Northern Ireland. The far north of Scotland, always the possibility of the Ha returning here. Small chance of a shower over southwest Scotland, northwest England, but a greater risk of those showers for Northern Ireland, where there could be slow-moving thunderstorms. So just something to keep an eye on here through the day. Small chance of a shower too for Wales, perhaps even the Midlands, but most places across England and Wales dry and fine. It'll start to cloud over in the southwest a little bit as we go through the afternoon into the evening, so sunshine turning hazy, and then that cloud thickening up. We're more likely to see some rain coming into South Wales, southwest England as we go through the early hours. Elsewhere, a dry night to come. Again, that mist and low cloud just drifting back inland over parts of eastern Scotland and eastern England. Bit of a chilly one over Scotland. Temperatures well down into single figures here. Different feel, though, tomorrow for South Wales, southwest England. More cloud and some outbreaks of rain. And we could see some heavy showers even developing over southeast England and the Midlands. Could be some welcome rain, but if you get a heavy downpour, it's going to drop a lot of rain in a short space of time. Those heavy downpours will be very hit and miss. Many places, again, dry and fine. A drier day for Northern Ireland. Again, cool on some North Sea coasts. High teens, low 20s elsewhere.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Motorists on the M8 westbound near Junction 27 should exercise caution due to a bale of hay on the carriageway. On the westbound M4 between Junction 46 Langefallach and Junction 47 Penlegaya, ongoing electrical works have closed slip roads with diversions. The A1 southbound in Lincolnshire has a lane closure between the A46 and the A52 due to a collision. In Southampton, congestion on the M271 southbound between Junction 1 and the A35 causes 10-minute delays. And on the trains, issues between Cardiff Central and Newport and through Salisbury are causing disruptions. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome to Britain's Newsroom. Now, Princess of Wales has inspired Deloitte to offer new fathers 6 months of fully paid paternity leave.
So this move puts fathers on an equal footing with new mothers at the firm, but this should be implemented elsewhere. Should this be implemented elsewhere, making maternity leave the same?
Let's speak now to author, podcast host and father, Lewis Oakley, and the director of Bright HR, Jenny Marsden. Jenny, let me come to you first. As the director of a HR advising company, what would be the benefits to society if men and women had equal parental leave and pay?
Benefits, of course, to the families is the extended time that they'll get with, being new parents, welcoming a baby into the world, the ability to support each other, all very, fantastic things. But the reality of that is, of course, the impact on businesses and the additional cost implications of introducing such a big change.
Isn't it just that it's not prioritised, though, that maybe family life isn't a priority to British companies?
I don't believe that's true. There's been a lot of changes already introduced over the course of the last few years. Further changes being introduced through the Employment's Right Bill, which of course will provide more families with the opportunity to benefit from maternity and paternity leave much sooner in their employment. We've also seen the introduction of neonatal leave as well, supporting families whose baby may have to enter neonatal care, and the introduction of shared parental leave as well. Shared parental leave is something that does already provide fathers and parents with the opportunity to split the time off and share that responsibility.
OK, Lewis, what's been the situation in your house? Have you taken equal leave to your partner?
No, it wasn't available, and I wish it had been. I had 6 weeks off with my youngest son, and they were needed, and we needed longer, to be quite honest. I think people forget when you have that new baby, first of all, you're not sleeping. So this idea of like, oh, get back to the office. It's like, I'm not doing my best work. I'm half asleep because we've got a young baby. Mom needs help, baby needs help. And also, I really do think that, we need someone in the house that can go above and beyond, that can keep things moving. And I think that, you have, 1, 2, maybe 3 children in your lifetime. That time is so important to be spending with them. And I do think companies are going to have to shift here and actually start prioritising the family.
How has Deloitte been able to offer this, Jenny, if other companies can't?
Deloitte are a huge corporation employing, I think, nearly 500,000 employees globally. They're not the typical small business that we see in the UK who are already struggling to make ends meet. And I think that's where, these kind of proposals are absolutely fantastic for the businesses that can afford the enhanced maternity and paternity entitlements. But unfortunately, the reality is for a lot of businesses in the UK, not only are they not in a position at the moment to look at an enhanced paternity pay, already those businesses are not offering an enhanced maternity pay. And that's something that would need to be taken into consideration. A business looking to implement enhanced paternity entitlements would then need to have a look at ensuring that that's equal for the mother taking maternity leave as well. Otherwise, this would create a completely separate debate.
OK, we've got to move on. I'm so sorry, Lewis. Good to see you. Lewis Oakley there and Jenny Marsden.
We've got some very important breaking news. Tommy Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yahtzee Lennon, is due to be released from prison within the next week after his 18-month sentence for the civil offence of contempt of court was cut by 4 months at the High Court. That's a turn-up.
Interesting. Just to remind you the details of that story, there was a film made by Tommy Robinson, which included, I think he voiced over, was a part of this film, which made allegations about a schoolboy in this country. And that film was banned for being untrue in relation to that story about that young boy. Tommy Robinson played it at a rally and he put it online, and he was told by the court that he must not show this movie because of the defamatory allegations that it drew about this particular child. He did. He kept playing it, he kept playing it. He got put away for that. Now, some people say the sentence was far too punitive because Tommy Robinson is a political figure and it was seen to be lawfare, justice that wasn't being served fairly because of who Tommy Robinson is and what he represents. So that is a very interesting turn of events.
And of course, he was kept in solitary confinement. They say the authorities argue for his own safety because he would have been targeted by some other prisoners, and there were serious concerns about his mental health.
That's right. But Tommy Robinson's spokespeople have said consistently that they do not believe that he was in solitary confinement for his own safety, that he was really struggling in prison and that he wants to come out. Well, he will be out within the next week now, after his 18-month sentence was reduced by 4 months at the High Court.
And we should remind you, of course, later this morning as well, we are expecting to hear whether Lucy Connelly, who was jailed for 31 months in October after making a post on Twitter which incited racial hatred in the wake of the Southport attacks, whether her appeal against the sentence at the Court of Appeal has been upheld. That we're going to hear that by email, and we should get that, we hope, sometime this morning. So, Tommy Robinson, he's won his case. He's going to be released a little earlier. They've cut it by 4 months.
And the argument from a lot of people in support of Tommy Robinson was that actually a contempt of court crime wouldn't ordinarily receive an 18-month prison sentence. Was that too heavy-handed?
Yeah.
Was that the political world joining forces with the legal world? Let us know your thoughts on that.
Up next, find out why almost half of Brits feel detached from society. Are you one of them? If you're looking for some holiday sun, first of all, here's the forecast for the European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Heavy showers for central and northern Italy and Croatia over the next few days. Generally sunny over the Greek islands. Plenty of sunshine for Iberia at the moment, but we are looking at more wet weather, especially for northern Spain and the Balearics come the end of the week. Those showers over Italy, some pretty heavy downpours over parts of the Balkans will continue with the risk of showers here through the week. Sunny skies for most of the Greek islands, certainly for Cyprus and much of Turkey as well. Santorini stays sunny for the rest of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Very good morning. Welcome to Britain's Newsroom. If you've just joined in us, you've missed a lot this morning. The news has just broken that Tommy Robinson will be out of prison in about a week's time after his appeal was heard. And we're going to be hearing the latest on the Lucy Connelly case. She was jailed.
That's victory for Tommy Robinson, isn't it? Because they've cut his sentence by 4 months.
Yeah.
So he won't be... Should somebody who commits a civil offence be in court, in prison anyway?
Absolutely. That is the fundamental question. We're going to be debating that just after 11 o'clock. And Lucy Connelly, of course, she is the mum that was jailed for 2 years and 7 months for an inflammatory social media post in the wake of the Southport riots. We're going to hear whether she has had her appeal successful in just a moment.
Now, moving on, half of Britons say they feel disconnected from society. Nearly as many feel like strangers in their own country.
This is a new survey which suggests it's not just about immigration, but economic insecurity and fraying community ties.
Let's talk to Lewis O'Garen, who's from More in Common, which has done this research. Lewis, why would the economic insecurity be making people feel strangers in their own home?
Yeah, good morning. That's a really interesting question. I think from focus groups that we have with people across the country, it seems that cost of living is a really key part of this. We hear from people all the time who say that they spend so much of their money on essentials that it's made socialising feel like a luxury. That all the simple things like going to the pub that we used to take for granted now kind of seem unaffordable to a lot of people. And we hear something we hear is that all the money goes on the boring stuff, and then the fun stuff, there's no money at the end of the week for that. And when you use words like fun stuff, it can kind of make it sound trivial, but I think it's hard to overstate how important that stuff is when it comes to building community and engaging with your friends and neighbours.
Fraying community ties as well. What do you mean by that, and what did those surveyed explain to you that meant?
Yeah, so we found that generally people feel less able to trust their neighbours and the people around them, and in particular, younger people are more likely to say that they can't trust the people around them in their lives. And there's a lot of reasons for this. I think what we get from the focus groups from speaking to people is, yes, people feel like immigration is a part of it, and that they want more support to help people from different cultures to integrate into their communities. But people also talk about the cost of living, as I said. They talk about social media, the sense that social media and technology is making us less connected. And there's also just kind of this sense with some people that since the pandemic, since lockdown, really, we haven't fully got back these shared social spaces and activities that used to bring us together.
How do we turn the tide, do you think?
That's a really good question. So this research marks the start of a new project. More in Common is working with UCL Policy Lab and Citizens UK, and that's kind of the goal of this project, is to look at different solutions on the community level and on the national level to try and kind of bring people together and rebuild these community ties that many people feel that we've lost. There are lots of successful examples on a local level. There are community projects for shared community meals and volunteer schemes that have been very successful. But kind of the goal of this research is to find how do we build this back.
Very difficult job, Louis, and when you have the answers to that, we'd love to hear it, because a lot of it is about immigration. Surely it is about the fact that if your neighbour's English isn't very good, maybe you can't have that chat over the fence or as you're putting your recycling out. I'm actually living somewhere at the moment, renting, where there's a lot of people there who aren't British born. And actually, we don't have that banter. I don't have that, like, little chat as you know, pick up your post or whatever, because we don't share the same necessarily sense of humour.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is something that comes up a lot in these conversations that we had throughout this research. I think the thing that's really clear from the public is that they do have high expectations when it comes to integration, and they want more to be done within communities, but also from the government to help people to engage with their communities. For example, free English lessons for recent migrants is one really popular measure that could help to facilitate that kind of integration.
When you say free, Louis, you mean the taxpayer paying for them?
I suppose I do, although there are also successful examples of volunteer schemes in local areas where people who, as you said, kind of want to feel closer to their community, go out and help and speak to people like that. There are lots of informal or voluntary schemes that also do this.
OK. All right. Well, really interesting. We wish you luck with it. Come back and let us know how you get on in solving that problem. Louis O'Gara in there for more In Common.
Still ahead, we're on Court Watch because Lucy Connelly is appealing against her 31 prison sentence for inciting race hate on Twitter after Southport. Here's the weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A fine sunny day for most places today, but we are again going to see a few showers, and they could be quite heavy, especially so across Northern Ireland. It is another pretty grey start over parts of southeast Scotland, northeast England. That cloud melting away through the morning, always potentially sticking to some of the east coast, but most places dry and sunny. But the clouds bubbling up this afternoon. We will see a few showers, maybe for Wales, certainly across Northern Ireland, perhaps southwest Scotland too. Feeling quite warm, though, a bit warmer than yesterday in the south, 23, 24, perhaps even up to 25 Celsius. Again, some of these North Sea coasts will be a little fresher, and certainly temperature will drop down where we see these heavy showers breaking out, which could easily affect parts of southern and western Northern Ireland. The far north of Scotland, always the possibility of the Ha returning here. Small chance of a shower over southwest Scotland, northwest England, but a greater risk of those showers for Northern Ireland, where there could be slow-moving thunderstorms. So just something to keep an eye on here through the day. Small chance of a shower too for Wales, perhaps even the Midlands, but most places across England and Wales dry and fine. It'll start to cloud over in the southwest a little bit as we go through the afternoon into the evening, so sunshine turning hazy, and then that cloud thickening up. We're more likely to see some rain coming into South Wales, southwest England as we go through the early hours. Elsewhere, a dry night to come. Again, that mist and low cloud just drifting back inland over parts of eastern Scotland and eastern England. Bit of a chilly one over Scotland. Temperatures well down into single figures here. Different feel, though, tomorrow for South Wales, southwest England. More cloud and some outbreaks of rain. And we could see some heavy showers even developing over southeast England and the Midlands. Could be some welcome rain, but if you get a heavy downpour, it's going to drop a lot of rain in a short space of time. Those heavy downpours will be very hit and miss. Many places, again, dry and fine. A drier day for Northern Ireland. Again, cool on some North Sea coasts. High teens, low 20s elsewhere.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you. Driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It has plenty of room for your family of four. Comes complete with kitchen, bathroom, and all the space you'll need for life on the road. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Morning, it's Tuesday the 20th of May, live across the UK, Britain's newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner.
Breaking news this morning, Tommy Robinson will be released from prison in days after his sentence for the civil offence of contempt of court was reduced by 4 months.
Brexit reset, reversal surrender. Surrender, I think. So Keir Starmer's new deal with the EU under fire this morning. Labour's Minister for Industry, Sarah Jones, she likes it.
We want to increase trade with Europe because that will mean more money, more jobs. Our British brilliant companies that we are all so proud of are being held back because they can't trade with the EU. That's nonsense, and we are sweeping that away.
But I did say it's time, you got to stop this thing. And I believe he wants to stop.
That was American President Donald Trump saying that peace talks between Russia and Ukraine will begin immediately after his powerful 2-hour phone call with Vladimir Putin.
And Lucy Connelly is appealing her 31-month prison sentence for inciting racial hatred on Twitter after 3 young girls were killed in Southport. We could even hear the outcome today.
And Blair battles overweight Britain. Sir Tony Blair has come out and said that half of adults in this country should be able to get their hands on jabs such as Ozempic through the post to make us all healthier, apparently with no regard to any side effects.
Golden balls versus golden jewels. Is David Beckham fishing for a knighthood here, posing with the King and Queen at Chelsea Flower Show? You bet.
So Stephen Yaxley Lennon, stage name, Tommy Robinson, will be out of prison within a week. Let us know your reaction to that. gbnews.com/your say. Obviously a very controversial figure. A lot of people say that that was lawfare, so political will influencing the decision. First, though, here's news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom at 11 o'clock. The top story this hour, well, it is that breaking news that Tommy Robinson is due to be released from prison within just a week after his 18-month sentence for contempt of court was cut today by 4 months. He was jailed last year for breaching an injunction that barred him from repeating false claims about a Syrian refugee who had successfully sued him for libel. At a High Court hearing this morning, lawyers argued Robinson had shown a commitment to comply with the order. And while the judge said there was no contrition or remorse, he did accept Robinson had shown what he described as a change in attitude. Robinson, real name Stephen Yaxley Lennon, attended the hearing via video link from HMP Woodhill. And we will take a look at the latest on the trade deals in just a moment. But first, a breaking line we're hearing from the Reuters news agency that the UK has today announced a major new wave of sanctions against Russia. 100 fresh measures targeting individuals and businesses backing Putin's war. It includes 82 new designations and 18 other specifications under Britain's Russia sanctions regime. That all comes, of course, as Russia has launched overnight its biggest drone attack against Ukraine of the war so far. The UK government saying it is tightening the pressure on Moscow's war machine. More details expected from the Foreign Office later today, and we will bring you those details when we get them. In other news, though, the Prime Minister says a new trade deal with the European Union marks a new era in UK relations with Europe, calling it good for bills, good for jobs and good for borders. The deal will see Brits use EU passport e-gates again, farmers face fewer export checks and young people accessing a new youth experience scheme. British burgers and sausages will also return to EU markets, and UK steel exports will dodge £25 million in tariffs. But backlash is growing over a 12-year extension for EU fishing in UK waters, with Reform UK warning of the end of the fishing industry. Well, the Shadow Foreign Secretary Priti Patel claims Labour has simply betrayed Brexit and betrayed Britain.
Keir Starmer never believed in Brexit. He spent all his time campaigning to unpick Brexit. He was being dishonest with the British public. He basically did not go into the general election last year and say that his reset would mean that we'd become a rule taker all over again and under the European Court of Justice, which is effectively what has happened. He deceived the British public. He never said that we'd end up paying the EU, and that's what we are doing again.
Donald Trump claims both Ukraine and Russia do want to end the war and says peace talks will start immediately. That follows a 2-hour phone call with Vladimir Putin, which Trump described as going very well. But he warned the US will walk away from negotiations if there's no progress. Donald Trump didn't reveal any details of the discussions, though, and the Kremlin hasn't commented so far. The UK, France and Canada are threatening concrete action against Israel if it continues its military campaign in Gaza. Sir Keir Starmer joined Emmanuel Macron and Mark Carney in Canada in condemning the blockade and warning the suffering in Gaza is intolerable. No food, fuel or medicine has entered since March, with the UN now saying 14,000 babies could die within the next 48 hours and that the civilian toll is disastrous. Israel's Prime Minister, though, insists the war is defensive and claims Western leaders are rewarding Hamas. Here, a major UK food distributor is being held to ransom by cyber hackers, disrupting supplies to Tesco, Sainsbury's, Lidl and Aldi. Peter Green Chilled says it suffered a ransomware attack on Wednesday night, halting orders and threatening thousands of products with waste. One supplier says the clock is ticking as meat pallets risk being binned. The firm also says that transport operations are still continuing and that its clients are getting workarounds for its supplies. It follows recent attacks on Marks & Spencer and Co-op amid warnings the cold chain sector in the UK is now under a growing cyber threat. And scientists in the United States have started building a vast underground detector they say they hope could answer one of the universe's biggest mysteries. The neutrino experiment is being constructed nearly a mile beneath the Earth's surface. Researchers say it could help explain why the universe exists in its current form. Well, current theories of astronomy still can't account for how stars, planets and galaxies came to be. It's hoped the project will shed light on the forces that shaped the cosmos. And let's just bring you a quick breaking line for you that the British athlete has broken the world record for running across Australia, completing the 3,800-kilometre journey in just 35 days. William Googe ran from Perth to Bondi Beach, would you believe, averaging 100 kilometres a day in memory of his late mother, raising money for cancer charities. He has described that run as a revolving nightmare, battling pain, hallucinations and rotting feet. Sounds like a shift at the news desk. Googe laid flowers on the sand for his mum, saying she would have been proud, if a little concerned. The previous record was 39 days, set last year by Chris Turnbull. And one other breaking line for you, which I am sure Andrew and Bev will be covering in just a short moment. But Lucy Connelly, the wife of a Conservative councillor, has had a bid to appeal against her 31-month prison sentence for inciting racial hatred online after those Southport attacks. That has been dismissed in the last few minutes by the Court of Appeal. Let's get plenty more now on that with Andrew and Bev.
Well, that is extraordinary breaking news, which you just heard there from San Francis. Lucy Connelly, she's the wife of a Conservative councillor. Her appeal against the 31-month sentence for putting out an intemperate tweet in the aftermath of the Southport murders has been dismissed. So she will remain in prison. She's not particularly... She's
Let's just have a minute to think about this country, right? This is a mother who has now got 284 days to remain away from her child and her husband and, who knows, her parents, maybe, her extended family, because she wrote one angry post on social media. And she also says that this is because she herself was suffering from bereavement. Tell you what she said. This was in the wake of the stabbings in Southport. Her post read... on X, Twitter, mass deportation now. Set fire to all the bleep hotels full of bleeps for all I care. If that makes me racist, so be it. It was up for about 3.5 hours. It was viewed 300,000 times. She thought that was probably a mistake, wasn't it? I let my anger get in the way. She deleted it.
31 months in jail, nearly 3 years.
The implication being of this...
Prison's being overflowing, by the way.
What does it mean if you live in a country where you can't express your views, no matter how unpalatable they might be to other people? That you could literally have a knock on the door, you get arrested, you get put into prison, you get taken away from your children. What good does this do other than to tell you at home, keep your voices shut, wind your necks in? I don't want you to say what you think. This is what this government are telling us, isn't it? Mass deportations now, set fire to all the beep hotels, full of the beep, for all I care. She's not saying go out and do it. And while you're at it, she said, take the treacherous government and politicians with them. I feel physically sick knowing what these families will now have to endure. If that makes me racist, so be it. And she meant the bereaved families of the girls that were stabbed by Axel Rudekabana. And just despair.
The government would say it's nothing to do with them. It's the autonomy of the courts is such. But it was pretty clear at the outset that Keir Starmer wanted a former lawyer, the former chief prosecutor of the country. That's what he got his knighthood for, by the way. Wanted tough sentences, and yet we're letting out of prison sex offenders, burglars, people who have committed domestic violence.
What about those guys who kicked the police officers in the head in Manchester Airport? They're not banged up in prison yet. This is a mother, and we're talking about words.
But we're letting out
words.
We're letting people out of prison who've committed domestic violence, sex offences, burglars, but we're keeping them. They're being let out early for good, and I think it's appalling.
Adam Cherry's at the Royal Courts of Justice. Adam, what's the reaction there from Lucy Connelly's family and friends?
Well, we understand Lucy Connelly had been hopeful but anxious about today's ruling, and of course it has been rejected. Now, the Free Speech Union, who had been supporting her legal case, said in the lead-up to this judgment today that for the FSU, Connelly's case foregrounds the importance of ensuring that sentencing decisions and the treatment of prisoners are governed by law and principle rather than public pressure. We have been supporting Connelly since her conviction, and members of our team will be present at the Royal Courts of Justice later this week as her appeal is heard. But a shocking case, guys. You've heard the tweet itself. You've heard the background to this. A childminder, one tweet deleted within about 3 hours. Nonetheless, even in the context of last week's prisons crisis announcement by the government in Downing Street, they're going to need to release prisoners early because prisons are so full. Nonetheless, Lucy Connelly will remain behind bars.
OK, thank you, Adam. Adam Cherry there at the Royal Courts of Justice. If you're just joining us, Lucy Connelly, she's the wife of a Tory councillor, remember? Sure, that's coincidental.
Yeah, funny that.
Put out a tweet about the Southport stabbings of those poor girls at the Taylor Swift dance class. She put it out angrily. She said, for all I care, burn down the hotels. She wasn't saying, right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go out, we're going to get a load of petrol, we're going to get a load of matches. She just vented angrily. Well, apparently we now live in a country where you can't vent angrily on social media because you could literally be taken away from your children for 2.5 years.
Even if they put her in prison for 3 days as a deterrent, as a gesture, but 31 months, and she's lost the appeal. But in other breaking news, Tommy Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, will be released within the next week after his 18-month sentence for the civil offence of contempt of court was cut by 4 months at the High Court. He has been in solitary confinement throughout. Now, the authorities say because it's for his own safety, his family are not convinced by that at all. They think it was just punitive punishment.
Let me tell you this. In the aftermath of those stabbings in Southport and the riots which ensued, and in those riots there were some deeply awful human beings throwing stuff at police officers. There were. But the way Keir Starmer came out and caused hatred in the aftermath of that, everybody that had a complaint was far right. Do you remember? And therefore, he, in my mind, in the aftermath of that, Keir Starmer was the one who came out with his massive stick and stirred the pot and caused all that division, rather than coming out and saying, I understand you have complaints, I understand you have concerns, but let's just calm down.
But he didn't want people to focus on the huge problems caused by mass rapid migration and the collapse of social cohesion. He didn't want people to talk about that because he's doing nothing about mass migration. He wanted people just to concentrate on the disorder.
And in the aftermath of that, and this is why when people say this isn't political, this is legal, the legal profession was listening to what Keir Starmer was saying at that time. And he set the tone for the punishments that were dished out in the aftermath of that. So he is culpable, in my opinion, in terms of this issue.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Lucy Connelly was right.
No, the tweet was offensive. She should never have sent it.
I'm not saying that we wouldn't tweet that. You and I, mass deportations now, I'm reading it if you're listening on the radio, set fire to all the beep hotels full of the beeps for all I care. Whilst you're at it, take the treacherous government and politicians with them. If I feel physically sick knowing what these families will now have to endure, if that makes me racist, so be it. 3 hours later, she thought, I probably went a bit far there. She deleted it.
It was a stupid, reckless thing to say, but 31 months in the first place. I was pretty confident that she was going to be released.
I was. I guess you can't have Tommy Robinson and her released on the same day. That would have sent out maybe the message that they don't want the British public to hear. What do you take from this? Be quiet. Keep your voices quiet. Don't speak out against the government. Don't speak out against immigration. Don't speak out against illegal immigration. This was, of course, at the time, if I remember rightly, when there was speculation that Axel Rudikabana had come across as an illegal migrant. That turned out not to be true.
Yes, that's right.
He
was born in
parents
Wales.
were immigrants.
He was born in Wales. His parents were migrants who came here from Rwanda, which, of course, had been through a terrible, terrible experience in the 1990s with genocide and civil war.
But again, all of that, for me, irrelevant in a way. The backstory is irrelevant. Do you want to live in a country where you can express unpalatable views? She was done for inciting racial hatred, remember. And maybe that would make you hate people of a different colour. I tend to think people aren't that stupid, and that you can read something on a tweet, but it doesn't mean that you are going to act on it.
Well, of course it doesn't.
And we live in a very dangerous time if the assumption being somebody else's action is the responsibility of somebody who said something. Do you see?
Yeah.
That's what I worry about. You could give me... I could read 1,000 of those tweets, probably do every day. I would never go out and set fire to a hotel. And we need to live in a world, don't we, in a country where personal responsibility is the key to
and the things as well, we have to remember, emotions were running incredibly high after the savage nature of the murder of those little girls. We're joined now by Ben Jones, who's Director of Case Management at the Free Speech Union, which has been backing Lucy Connelly. Ben, this is, I must say, I was somewhat surprised, who knows about these things, because I thought the original sentence, 31 months, was draconian, and bearing in mind her circumstance, she's a young mother, I thought that, particularly after the representations by others, including your own organisation, they would have at least reduced her sentence.
It's basically disappointing. It's hard to know what else to say other than that. We've supported Lucy for a long time. This is not the result that we were hoping for. It remains the case that the sentence, in our view, is grossly disproportionate. I think I'd also like to say at this point that the Free Speech Union is contacted by hundreds of people in any month, many of whom are absolutely terrified about what they can and cannot say in this country. They just do not know what the rules are.
J.D. Vance, the American Vice President, actually did talk, didn't he, Ben, recently about how, in his view, free speech was under attack in Great Britain. I think this verdict will feed into that view.
I'm afraid he's absolutely right to say that freedom of speech is under attack in Britain, and it's a sustained attack that's been going on for a long time. It's an attack that is not relenting in any way. And unfortunately, we see that comments around immigration, the scale of immigration, the failure to integrate, a discussion of the tensions which are undeniable and inescapable in modern Britain is a topic that is being reacted to by the authorities in an increasingly heavy-handed way. That is what we can read from this result today. It's what we're seeing at the Free Speech Union constantly, that people who want to express their criticism, their concern, their very grave concerns about what's happening in this country, feel that they're not able to. And those that do find that if it's not the police knocking on their door, it will be their employer dismissing them from their employment because they do not share the company's values, because they have objected, usually in very moderate terms, to mass immigration or to these sorts of issues.
Do you suspect in any way, I mean, I appreciate this is going to be a subjective view, Ben, but that the judiciary are taking their lead from the top? We have a very prominent human rights lawyer in number 10 who made his views quite clear after the Southport riots.
I think we're in a dangerous situation as a country where that will be the perception of millions of people in this country reacting to this verdict, that trust in the police, in the authorities generally, in the courts and the judiciary, I think is in a free fall. This is a terrible situation for any country to be in, and I think that many people watching this will agree entirely with what you've just said.
Her own son, Lucy Connelly, had a son that died 14 years earlier. Her argument was the news of the murders of those Southport children was very triggering for her. She'd stood in the shoes of those grieving parents. And when she was asked why she deleted the post, she told the court, "I calmed myself down, and I know that wasn't an acceptable thing to say. It wasn't the right thing to say. It wasn't what I wanted to actually happen." It's very difficult to see any sort of other factors other than just cruelty and making a political point that have resulted in this woman being taken away from her daughter for 2.5 years. Is this the end for her now in terms of appeals, Ben? Does she have anywhere else that she can go?
It's difficult to say at this point. We're reviewing it, and clearly the judgment has only just come out a few minutes ago. I think the point I would make at this stage, at the risk of labouring the point, is that I think this ruling, and when you look at the wording she used, for all I care, I think is the crucial phrase, for all I care. I think, in my view, clearly this is not a form of words that she should have used. She realised that very quickly within a few hours afterwards, and as you say, she deleted this post. But this is not somebody who set out to incite violence or racial hatred. This is somebody who, for entirely understandable human reasons, had a reaction to that horrifying news that she later regretted and very immediately recanted. And I think people watching this overwhelmingly are going to see that this is a grossly disproportionate sentence, and the decision today is the wrong one.
I think one of the things, Ben, that I find really chilling about this as well is the fact that when she was arrested and the police confiscated her phone, they found other things that she had said in private on WhatsApp exchanges with friends, which were also deemed to be racist. And she was grilled about this in the court, and they said, do you think we're being invaded by immigrants? And she said, I believe that we have a massive number of people in the country that are unchecked coming into the country, and I believe that is a national security risk. It's almost like what she said in the court they deem as irrelevant compared to private conversations she'd had with friends about immigration, particularly illegal immigration, on the private WhatsApp messages. Is that relatively a new phenomenon for courts to look at your private correspondence?
Well, I think what I'd say to that point, I'd point you to the example of the Scottish Hate Crime Act, which came into effect a little over a year ago, which removed the private dwelling defence. And so I think what we are seeing increasingly, whether it's from the police or whether it's from employers looking at what people are saying in private, in WhatsApp chats, we are seeing a disregard for people's privacy and for their right to express views, even unpalatable views, in private, in the home, or in a WhatsApp conversation.
Yeah. Fascinating, Ben. Thank you. And deeply disturbing.
It is. That's Ben Jones, who's from the Free Speech Union, which was backing Lucy Connelly. Now up next, we have a shocking story about the pandemic treaty. It's going to really wind up Bev.
Well, I tell you what, if you think us cozying up to the EU is a problem, just wait to hear what sovereignty we have just given away to the World Health Organization. You need to understand it. Don't go anywhere. Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Are these two things linked? Is an excess of belly fat perhaps hindering our children's education?
Good morning. So you're quite right. It's not the actual belly fat that is causing the brain problem. It's more that what causes the belly fat to exist is also causing issues in the brain, essentially. So the belly fat is almost a side effect, and so is the reduced learning, the memory, the mood issues that we're seeing in the brain. So it's very important to understand that those two things are correlated, and actually the problems that go behind it are what we need to target. So it's not just about, we're not just trying to body shame young people, we're actually trying to look at what are the cofactors, essentially. So that could be sleep, lack of exercise, overuse of technology, loneliness, would you believe it? And of course, diet.
The headline essentially has run away with itself. It's conflating the two and making it sound like belly fat is an issue for our children's education, when in reality, it's a matter of actually we need to be encouraging healthier habits, a better diet, more sleep, as you mentioned, loneliness, for example. Is it healthy, though, for these headlines to suggest, like you said, potential for body shaming, potential for, parents getting the wrong impression? Is that what the real issue here is?
I mean, everything has a positive and a negative side. If any parent looks at this and thinks, oh my gosh, I'm seeing my child is getting a little bit podgier around the middle, I need to do something, and kicks them into action. And same with children, it's not a bad idea to inform them and educate them about diet and exercise, and it's good to know about those things.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dawdney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Andrew and Bev and Nigel Nelson and Rene Hundekamp are back in the studio with us. Nigel, we want to come to you first. Can you defend this judge's decision to keep Lucy Connelly's sentence, if people are just tuning in, at 2.5 years for an angry social media post?
Yes. I think that the people have to understand that a crime committed online is the same as a crime committed in the real world.
So do you think it's just as bad to punch someone in the face as it is to write, you can burn all these hotels down for all I care?
Well, that's like saying, are robbery and burglary the same? No, they're not. If she'd shouted that tweet out in the street, the same thing would have happened. And I do think that the sentence was harsh to make an example of her, and also to send the message.
Too harsh?
Well, I mean, not too harsh in the sense you were making an example of her. So it was an exemplary sentence, deliberately so.
That's a political. That is literally lawful.
No, it's a legal judgment. That so the judge gave an exemplary sentence to send the message as a deterrent to other people tempted to do the same thing.
If that was true, her appeal would have actually been upheld today because they would have made their message and sent it. Lucy Connelly is a political prisoner for
words.
Not. Yes, she is. And
she's a criminal who was sent to jail for a reason.
There is absolutely no justification or benefit to society of separating a mother from a child. If you wanted to punish her, put a tag on her leg and make her go and work with a local mosque to learn about other cultures and people, if that's what you wanted to do. Putting a mother in prison, not allowing her to actually visit her daughter when all other prisoners...
You're making the mitigation case. I'm making the case about why this was an exemplary sentence and why we have to understand...
OK, but why? OK, then, so why was it why did she need an example making of her?
Because of what happened in Southport. There were a number of exemplary sentences that came out of that, some of the rioters themselves.
So in order to do what?
In order to stop it happening again.
No, but in order to... No. In order to do what? Why was she given that sentence at that period of time.
To stop other people doing the same thing again. That's what an exemplary sentence is. To make an example of her.
Speaking. In order to make people shut up and go along with the government and not to criticise what they saw at the time was a rising crime in this country because of people being here illegally.
The point is that what she was convicted of is inciting racial hatred. That is a crime online and a crime if you go and do it in the street.
But as you've just said, she was made an example of.
And
if that is not a political act, I don't know what is.
And she wasn't convicted in front of 12 of her peers because she was convinced by the police that she should plead guilty because they were going to actually really throw the book at her. And she did that. If she'd have actually stood her ground and said, no, I will fight this in court, I guarantee it wouldn't have gone to court. And even if it had, she would not have got 31 months. Just remember that Rochdale grooming gang members who sexually abused children got lesser sentences.
You cannot compare.
Oh, I
different
can.
crimes.
You cannot. Oh, I can.
I mean, the whole point of sentence.
You've got to take public opinion with you in these.
No, you haven't. This is about what
but
happens
this was
in a
trying
court.
to influence public opinion because it was to try to, as you say, to stop other people doing it. 31 months is more severe than men who systematically raped and abused little white girls.
Part of the point of exemplary sentences is the deterrent value. In fact, that's the point of sentences as a whole, deterrent value.
I don't actually disagree with you that that was the reason, and actually it worked at the time, because what happened was that people like me, even I'm sure Bev and I'm sure Andrew, started looking at what we were tweeting and thinking, oh, shall I do that today? What that is, Nigel, is a dictatorship where you're not allowed to express your dissatisfaction with decisions of your government.
It is good you actually checked on what you were tweeting to make sure that you weren't going to break the law.
But think about what you've just said. For somebody as measured, intelligent and educated as Renee to be self-censoring because she is worried about what the government, in collaboration with the justice system, would dish out her way. We are living in a dictatorship.
Yeah.
Once you are self-censoring, that's it. It's a totalitarian regime, full stop.
But Bev, we self-censor ourselves all the time.
And we managed to do so without ending up in prison. And that is why it is so ridiculous that you take one mother's tweet, an angry tweet. It is words,
Do you
Nigel.
think the judiciary was acting in concert with the government?
No, I don't.
Because Starmer was very, very outspoken about it.
Yeah, he certainly was.
Former chief prosecutor, former lawyer.
So he certainly was, and the argument was that these should be exemplary sentences to stop what happened in Southport happening again.
But then he is working in collaboration with the government.
But when it comes down to the actual sentencing, the judiciary is independent, and that was the decision that the judge took at the time.
We have no evidence that Keir Starmer was on the phone to that judge saying, bang her up because I want the public to be silent. We have no evidence of that.
Well, as a former DPP, that would be most improper.
Of course it would.
However, channels.
He didn't need to. He didn't need to. He'd already said, he came out at his lectern and said, this is the far right causing riots in this country. Yeah. I'm sorry, he set the tone.
We had
adverts, and it worked.
We had adverts with people's photos on them saying these criminals will be dealt with before they'd actually even been before the law from this government. They were being called criminals before they'd been convicted, Nigel, by this government.
1,300 people arrested.
But we're talking specifically here about Lucy Connelly and whether or not it was right to get a sentence like that. And the argument I'm making is, yes, it was, because she'd have got that sentence if she shouted in the street.
Do you know what will happen to Lucy Connelly and her family? They will never recover from this. A child will never recover. She will have trauma that she takes through her life. Not only has Lucy Connelly's life been destroyed, so has that of a child who is a future adult in our society.
And a lot of mothers who end up in prison, which is why there's a move now to stop so many women going to prison have the same sort of problem.
So why didn't we put a tag on Lucy Connelly and make her go and do community work with the communities that she so badly maligned?
For the reason I just said, this was deliberately designed as an exemplary sentence to deter others from doing it.
On that point...
And using unpalatable phrases for the government.
We do have to move on.
Renee, thank you so much.
Time for the headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. 11:30 for the top story this hour. Tommy Robinson is due to be released from prison within a week after his 18-month sentence for contempt of court was today cut by 4 months. He was jailed last year for breaching an injunction that barred him from repeating claims about a Syrian refugee who had successfully sued him for libel. At a High Court hearing this morning, lawyers argued Robinson had shown a commitment to comply with the order. And while the judge said there was no contrition or remorse, he accepted Robinson had shown a, quote, change in attitude. Robinson's real name, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, attended the hearing via video link from HMP Woodhill. And a recap of that breaking news. We've just heard that the wife of a former Conservative councillor has lost her bid to cut her jail sentence for an online rant about migrants posted on the day of the Southport attacks. Lucy Connelly was jailed for 31 months after calling for asylum hotels to be set on fire in a post viewed online over 300,000 times before it was deleted. She claimed in court she was grieving and never meant to incite violence, while judges rejected that appeal. They said her version of events didn't justify reducing the sentence. Connelly had pleaded guilty to inciting racial hatred after more racist messages were found on her phone. And the Prime Minister says a new trade deal with the EU marks a new era in the UK with relations with Europe, calling it good for bills, good for jobs and good for borders. The deal will see Brits use EU passports, e-gates again, farmers face fewer export checks and young people access a new youth experience scheme. British burgers and sausages will also return to the EU market and UK steel exports will dodge £25 million in tariffs. But backlash is growing over a 12-year extension for EU fishing in UK waters, with Reform UK warning of the end of the fishing industry. Well, the Shadow Foreign Secretary Dame Priti Patel claims Labour has betrayed Brexit and Britain.
Keir Starmer never believed in Brexit. He spent all his time campaigning to unpick Brexit. He was being dishonest with the British public. He basically did not go into the general election last year and say that his reset would mean that we'd become a rule taker all over again and under the European Court of Justice, which is effectively what has happened. He deceived the British public. He never said that we'd end up paying the EU, and that's what we are doing again.
And the UN's humanitarian chief is warning 14,000 babies could die in Gaza within just 48 hours without urgent aid. Tom Fletcher says just 5 lorries entered after Israel lifted its 11-week blockade, but more have reached people so far. Israeli airstrikes overnight killed at least 38 Palestinians in just 30 minutes, according to local reports. And that comes as the UK, France and Canada have urged Israel to halt its renewed offensive and get more aid in. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, though, says the war can end tomorrow if Hamas releases its hostages. 58 remain in Gaza, with up to 23 thought to still be alive. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you at midday. Next, though, let's take a look at the markets.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's a look at the markets for you just after 11:30. The pound will buy you $1.3377 and €1.1878. The price of gold, £2,421 and 47 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 8,745 points.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Up at noon, good afternoon, Britain. Tom and Miriam. What a treat to see
Good
you,
afternoon.
Miriam.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And what's coming up?
Well, there's a lot to discuss.
There is.
We should mention that the Prime Minister will be speaking live in the House of Commons from midday and having some pretty tough questions thrown his way. Unlike yesterday, where he's sort of standing at a podium, today he'll be in a baying chamber with questions and barbs being thrown his way. It'll be interesting to see how he deals with it. There could well be.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Well, there's very fewer Brexiteers probably in the chamber now than there were in 2016.
That's true. It'll be interesting to see. I'm sure the Speaker will pick some Reform MPs to fire some questions.
Yes, I think he'll have to.
But other than that, of course, the extraordinary ruling on Lucy Connelly.
Amazing.
I am flabbergasted
We all are.
that a tweet that I think has been massively misreported. Reading the write-up of this tweet, they say, oh, Lucy Connelly was inciting people to go and set fire to hotels. No, her tweet said, set fire to hotels for all I care.
Yes, yeah.
That shows to me indifference over a situation. It's not a nice thing to tweet.
It was careless,
it's
but not insightful. Yeah. And astonishing because usually judges do all they can to keep women, especially mothers, out of prison.
Quite.
For even much more serious offences. So it's just an astonishing case.
She's a political prisoner.
She is. It's vindictive.
Miriam and Tom will be here from midday. Still to come this morning, though, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, otherwise known as Tommy Robinson, will be released from prison in days after his sentence for the civil offence of contempt of court was reduced this morning by 4 months. Should he have been in jail in the first place? Let us know what you think. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Through this morning, any low cloud clearing away, leading to plenty of warm sunshine for most, but there is a risk of heavy showers on the cards, particularly across Northern Ireland. But we still find ourselves with high pressure to the north of the country, bringing largely settled conditions, but at time a northeasterly flow, just making things feel a little bit cooler around any eastern coasts. But any low cloud burning back to eastern coastal areas, leaving wall-to-wall blue skies for many areas, though the risk of showers, particularly across southern Scotland, northern England, parts of Wales, the odd isolated shower may pop up, but the main risk is across Northern Ireland, where we could see some heavy showers, possibly even the odd rumble of thunder. But for most, it should be a dry day, plenty of warm sunshine, highs reaching around the low 20s. To finish off the day then, across Scotland, mostly dry, though we'll start to see a return of some low cloud across the far northeast through the course of the evening. Still some showers lingering on across parts of Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, still the heaviest of showers across parts of Northern Ireland. And across England and Wales, yes, still the odd isolated shower, but for most it should be a dry end to the day. And remaining mostly dry for the first part of the evening, any showers eventually easing away across Northern Ireland. Then it's all eyes to the south and southwest, further cloud pushing through here, and then also some outbreaks of showery rain as we head towards dawn. So a very different start to the day across parts of the south, but elsewhere, Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, a dry, clear night, which means it just might feel that little bit chillier. But across central and southern areas as we head into tomorrow, a very different day ahead. More cloud, outbreaks of rain, eventually easing their way southwards. But then across central areas, further showers bubbling up. Once again, these could be heavy at times, but a much drier day ahead across Northern Ireland, Scotland, northern parts of England. Still plenty of warm sunshine, though feeling a little bit cooler across the south.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Time is 11:43, Britain's News with GB News with Andrew and Bev.
A second man has been charged with arson over fires at properties linked to Sir Keir Starmer. The 26-year-old Romanian national is accused of arson with intent to endanger life, according to the Metropolitan Police.
We're going to go straight to Westminster Magistrates Court and speak to our Home Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, morning.
Good morning to you. Yes, this is 26-year-old Stanislav Karpiuk. As you said, he is a Romanian national but he was born in Ukraine. As he stood in the dock, the glass-fronted dock at Court Number 1 here at Westminster Magistrates Court, he spoke through a Russian interpreter, and he confirmed his name, his address in Romford in East London, and his date of birth. He is the second Eastern European to appear in court, charged with a number of firebomb offences. Roman Lavrinovich, another Ukrainian national, appeared at this same court on Friday. They're both charged in relation to a fire on the 12th of May at a residential property in Kentish Town, the family home of Sir Keir Starmer. He's of course not living there at the moment, as he is resident in Downing Street, but that blaze was controlled and confined to an area at the entrance to that property. No one was hurt. 4 days prior to that, a car that was once owned by Sir Keir Starmer but sold to a neighbour in that same street as the residential address in Kentish Town was set ablaze. And then just a day before the Kentish Town house fire, another address linked to Sir Keir Starmer, he used to own the property more than 2 decades ago, was again firebombed, with that fire confined to the entrance area of that address. One person was rescued by firefighters. Now, this 26-year-old has been remanded in custody. He'll appear alongside his co-accused at the Central Criminal Court, the Old Bailey, on the 6th of June.
OK, thank you, Mark. Very strange, isn't it? So it's so unusual for a politician's private homes to be attacked in that way.
Really is. Now, plenty more to come, but first, if you're in search of some elusive holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of those European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Heavy showers for central and northern Italy and Croatia over the next few days. Generally sunny over the Greek islands. Plenty of sunshine for Iberia at the moment, but we are looking at more wet weather, especially for northern Spain and the Balearics come the end of the week. There are those showers over Italy, some pretty heavy downpours over parts of the Balkans. Will continue with the risk of showers here through the week. Sunny skies for most of the Greek islands, certainly for Cyprus and much of Turkey as well. Santorini stays sunny for the rest of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
It's a surprise.
exist. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Now, Tommy Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, is due to be released from prison within the next week after his 18-month sentence for the civil offence of contempt of court was cut by 4 months by the High Court.
We're joined now by lawyer Paul Turner to explain this to us. Good morning, Paul. So from a legal point of view, what's the basis on which his sentence has been reduced?
The basis of that is that he's agreed to comply with the terms of the injunction, the breaches of which led him to prison. In short, he was sentenced to 18 months for contempt of court. 14 of that was for the contempt itself. And an additional 4 months was because he refused to take down the offending material or indicate that he wouldn't commit the breach again. It appears that what he has done is that he has said that he will comply with the terms of the injunction and he will remove the offending material, which has led to 4 months being taken off his sentence.
And just to remind people, Paul, he'd republished information which was deemed defamatory about a young man.
Yes, that's right. There were I think 6 podcasts, and then he created a film and published the film and made no attempt to hide that he was publishing the film with the knowledge that would be in breach of the High Court's injunction. So it was, I think it would be fair to say, a willful breach of the injunction. And it's also worth remembering that when he was in court and sentenced originally, he did plead guilty to the 10 breaches of the injunction.
So this is, when you say we'd taken the video down, he had this video film pinned at the top of his Twitter feed. And even though he's obviously been in prison, in solitary confinement for 7 months, people who work with him, for him, have been updating his Twitter feed to the outside world. Obviously, they are now jubilant this morning that this has happened. And the judge said that because, even though he hadn't shown any sort of remorse, that he had been, by taking down this movie, it did show that he was prepared to be more compliant with the request of the court. The film was called Silenced. What now? What now? He just comes out now, and will he be free to talk to the media, to talk on his social media? Will there be conditions attached to his release, do you know?
The caution from the court was that if he breaches the injunction again, he would be liable, I think, for up to 2 years back in prison. So essentially, I mean, there would be no restrictions on him commenting on what it was like, what had happened to him, and probably whether or not he thinks the sentence was fair. All of that, I think, would be perfectly permissible and wouldn't land him in trouble. But if he treads upon the material that caused the court to find that he was in breach of the injunction, then it is likely that he would go back to prison. So as long as he doesn't repeat the allegations that were made or repeat the libelous material, then he would be fine.
OK, thank you, Paul. Lawyer Paul Turner there.
It's going to be quite a big event when he comes out of prison. It
will be. A lot of people are very interested to see what he will tell them about his experience of being banged up inside. And
is there some debate about why he was in solitary?
Miriam and Tom will no doubt be carrying that on from midday. Here they are. We're back tomorrow morning at 9:30.
See you tomorrow.
A busy day of news this afternoon. The Prime Minister will face fierce questioning in the House of Commons in around half an hour's time.
And of course, we'll be digging into that Court of Appeal story about Lucy Connelly, failure to be released. And we've got some fascinating debates coming up. Should child murderers be named?
And indeed, what about the fat jab? Should it be delivered to 15 million households by post? That's what Tony Blair's think tank is suggesting. All of that and more after this.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A fine sunny day for most places today, but we are again going to see a few showers, and they could be quite heavy, especially so across Northern Ireland. It is another pretty grey start over parts of southeast Scotland, northeast England. That cloud melting away through the morning, always potentially sticking to some of the east coast, but most places dry and sunny. But the clouds bubbling up this afternoon. We will see a few showers, maybe for Wales, certainly across Northern Ireland, perhaps southwest Scotland too. Feeling quite warm though, a bit warmer than yesterday.